Welcome to Give Me Hope with your host and author, Johanna Vendel. Come join the conversation as Johanna focuses on sharing impactful personal narratives of loss. Her platform provides a safe space for individuals to express themselves, find comfort, and build connections as they navigate their grief journey. So now, please welcome the host of Give Me Hope, Johanna Vendel.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Give Me Hope with Johanna on this beautiful day. So, guess where I were over the weekend? Hollywood. Me at Hollywood. Can you believe that? So, I went to Author of the Year. As everyone know, I was a finalist for Author of the Year 2025. I did not come home empty-handed. I did come home with a beautiful International Impact Book Award pin, which I think I can wear on my clothes when I go to a book fair or something. And I also won this beautiful medallia, International Impact Finalist medallia. And then I also came home with a very big certificate that I can hang on my wall. But I have to say this was the most amazing time of my life. It was a time where I could dress up again and meet some new people and just be there and see how everything is done when there is Oscars given out. So they call this actually Oscars for authors. This was the very, very first Oscars for authors ever. I also met quite a few famous people, all the people of my most favorite soapy that I've been watching for years and years. It almost feels like they're family. That's how well I know them. And I have met 4 of my bold and the beautiful actresses and actors. And I'll show you a photo. Now, isn't that beautiful? Wow. I have an amazing author in my studio today, and we will interview her and hear all about her books. She's got 2 books, and it's always interesting to hear where everything started. So let's introduce Carrie Lefave. Hello, Carrie.
How are you?
I'm very well, and how are you?
Excellent. It's just really good to be
Welcome.
here. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh, wow. Well, Carrie, can you hit off with telling the people a little more about yourself? Who is Carrie?
Who is she? I'm still figuring that out. I'm from Canada, and I grew up in southern Ontario, a place called Woodstock.
Oh,
It was a very strict evangelical environment with a lot of abuse, a lot of dysfunction. So I grew up not really having any idea of who I was, no self-esteem. I became a competitive runner, so all of my accolades came through.
wow.
If I was
Wow.
good at running, then I was worth something. If I wasn't good at running, then I was useless. And that was how I felt about myself. So it was a pretty rough start to say.
Okay. Wow. So you were a very good athlete.
Yeah.
What
Um,
what kind of sports did you do? Like just running, or did you do high jump and like
I did all
what did you
sorts
do?
of sports. I did basketball,
Oh,
volleyball. But my main sport was running. And at that
wow.
time, it was cross country and track.
Wow.
And as I got older, I progressed into longer distances, up even to the marathon. So I've done the whole gamut of distances. But
My word. No, I was always just a sprinter in my life
okay,
and my younger life, and long jump, high jump, and yeah, just a track athlete and
yes,
netball instead of um what's it called? Basketball.
Basketball. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yes. Well, Carrie, would you like to start and telling us how did you begin and how did you start to write your first book and the story behind it? What made you wrote it?
Okay, as I mentioned, it was a very abusive home life that I grew up in. So by the time I reached adulthood, um, I started making decisions based on what I'd grown up with, and they were really bad decisions about who I married. That was a total farce. I divorced him after like only 4 years of marriage, and at that time, it was when I went on a total rampage. I divorced God, I divorced the family, I divorced him, I divorced everything that I had been told this is what you do. And I went totally into my running, into partying, um, anything to avoid being alone. And along with that came really bad choices that I made. And then I
Wow.
ended up with this man who I believed I could never live without. And he turned out to be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So I was always the recipient of his narcissism and his abuse and hiding that from all of my friends because if I admitted that, then that meant there was something wrong. But it's funny how synchronicities start to happen in your life. And in 1990, I finally found the courage to actually leave him. And I started to deal with my childhood sexual abuse and trauma and sought out counseling. And after that, I thought, you know what? I've gone through so much, through many stories, that I thought maybe it's time that I wrote all of this down, not so much for anybody else, but for my own healing.
Mm.
So in 2011, I actually made a contract with myself to write my first book, and it was called Unfinished. You can see it here.
Born into a dysfunctional, rigid, fear-based Christian family, Carrie quickly learns that her world is not a safe one. Strappings are frequent, and Carrie endures multiple forms of abuse at the hands of those closest to her throughout her childhood and adolescence. To mask her fears and sensitivity, Carrie develops a tough exterior and seeks distinction and success through competitive running. Desperate to feel loved and accepted, she marries, believing that this will solve all of her problems. Soon, she realizes the marriage is not what she signed up for and divorced him, and determined to outrun the demons from her past. Later, she pursued a career as a police officer, but she was not prepared for the bullies and double standards she encountered. They mirror everything she has run from. Bravely, Carrie deliberately confronts the traumas that threaten to take her down, determined to find her way despite the circumstances she faces. Unfinished is a moving memoir that sees its gutsy protagonist triumph over remarkable odds to find herself and the love she so deserves. You can find her books on Amazon now.
Wow.
And I started writing, and some days I wrote a sentence. Other days I could just write and it would just come out. And as I was writing, it took me 5 years to write this book. But I thought, as I'm healing, I was feeling lighter, I was feeling freer. And I thought maybe my stories can help somebody else. And that's when I decided to self-publish, which I did in 2016. So it's very personal, it's very honest, but it's a story of what I went through as a result of childhood, basically.
Wow, that sounds like a sad life there for a while, and I can relate to you in that as well because I've also been in a marriage where I trusted my ex so much, and
Yeah,
eventually we got a divorce and married a good man after a few years, and
yes.
it just is so incredible when you leave that life behind and move on and let that person also just live his life, and
Yeah.
I had to
I
forgive
remember I
him
remember the
for myself to move on.
yeah. I remember the first night I had left him, and I I was shocked because I was no longer walking on eggshells, terrified of the way I might look at him or what I might say. And it was just all of a sudden this blast of freedom of just being able to be.
Yes.
And it's mind-boggling how it feels for someone who hasn't gone through that. It was
Yes.
it was very awakening.
Ah, wow. So your book, what is your book about? I mean, do you tell the story of all of that happened
Yeah,
or
I start basically right from birth, from all of my memories, through the abuse, through the my first marriage, through my relationship with this other guy. I eventually became a police officer um, in Northern Ontario, and that's where I met my present husband. But I write about how it was totally different than anything I had ever expected coming in as a female.
Mm.
And so it was such an eye-opening thing. And when I look back, my whole police experience was actually a total mirror of my childhood, full of bullies, full of rules that didn't make any sense, never being able to do it right, never being good enough. So my book is a lot about that.
it's unbelievable how also if we start to write our stories,
Oh,
how it
yeah,
heals us. Because that is how it was for me writing my books.
yes.
And it is unbelievable how one can just go ahead and forward with your life, continue with a new chapter, because I was stuck in the past for a very long time.
Oh, I
And
hear
only
you. Yeah,
recently, I have started to say, I'm going to start to put the past behind me,
yes. Hmm.
because I have too many heartaches, and
Yeah.
grief,
Well,
and one
really
needs
our
to move
past,
on.
that's right. And our past is stories. It's stories that we've lived through. And I think sometimes it's time to put those stories as stories in the past because our life is still continuing and we're making
Mm.
new progress, new acquaintances, new relationships, and that becomes the new. And if we keep stuck in the past, then we remain bitter
You cannot move forward
and we
because then
can't move
it
forward.
almost holds you back,
Totally. Yeah.
just like
We're
my
so
one
much more than that.
just like my one book that I've now released a while ago, Unseen Tears Beneath the Mask.
Yes.
How that mask is just dragging you down
Oh,
all the
totally.
time. And I have eventually now released my mask
That's
and
awesome. Yeah.
reviewing myself now to the world. And I'm not going to put that mask back
No,
on
because you're not that person
because
anymore.
I don't
That's
want to,
right.
like I say, I don't want to look back anymore. And
Yeah.
if that is how I think about life, wearing a mask,
Mhm.
covering up my fear, my anxiety, my depression, my grief, and now I am taking it off and I'm revealing my total self.
Who you
And
really are.
it
Yeah.
is unbelievable how much lighter I feel in this last month, 2 months since that book has been released, and
Fantastic.
you
Yeah.
can just move on. Wow.
But it's getting it out there, isn't it? It's being able
Yes.
to write it down and say this was it. Yeah.
So
So
tell me, when did you publish this book?
it was published in 2016. But at
Okay.
the time, I had written under a pseudonym because of my experience in the police force.
Oh, okay.
And people said, please don't use your real name because there'll be retaliation.
Yes,
It's
yes.
funny because what I wrote about, the kind of people that would retaliate would never read this kind of book. But anyway, so we moved from Northern Ontario 8 years ago. And that's when I began to put a face to my book. And then I put out a second edition last
Oh,
year under my real name because it's something that I no longer want to hide from. This is my story. This is what happened. And if they happen to come after me, oh well, I don't think it will happen, but who knows? But this
and
is who
what
I
is
am.
that
And this
book's name?
was my story. What's that?
What is the book's name?
The chrysalid, as souls struggle to rekindle its inner magic.
Carrie's childhood was a messy one, infiltrated by abuse, restrictions, and the uncompromising teachings of a conservative church that tried to force her to live by the rules. To cope with her fears and confusion, she immersed herself in nature, captivated by things like bugs and tadpoles. It was a place where her imagination had no restrictions and was free to run wild. However, this was not her reality, and she began to believe the rhetoric surrounding her, which portrayed her as flawed, not good enough, and destined for the fires of hell. As she grew older, her shame, anger, and feelings of worthlessness attracted people who only brought more hurt, deepening the wounds of her heart. In her mid-20s, Carrie divorced not only her husband but all the practices and beliefs that had been relentlessly hammered into her from birth. She threw herself into her passion for competitive running while also embarking on a life of parties and promiscuity. Failed relationships and heartbreak eventually brought her face to face with everything she had been running from. But then, synchronicities began to appear both with the events she experienced and the people who crossed her path, propelling her on a journey she would otherwise never have dared to undertake. This is the story of one woman's metamorphosis as she searches for love and connection with a higher source. Ultimately, she discovers her true self in the process. You can purchase her book on Amazon now.
Wow.
And this one was put out last year as well.
Okay. Didn't you win an award for one of those books?
I was at a gala in July with International Impact, and I did win an award for Unfinished.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I found out I just recently won an award also now for the Chrysalid.
Oh,
So
wow. Maybe
things
you
are
can
moving.
take part in Author of the Year next year.
We'll see about that. I'll follow you to Hollywood. How's that?
I'll show you where it is.
Yeah, please do. You can come with me.
Well, do you want to tell us a little more about your second book?
My second book, as I said, I was brought up in a really evangelical Christian environment that was totally strict. This is what you had to believe. I pictured God as a judge, sitting up there in a high chair and saying, "You're going to heaven and you're going to hell." And because I believed that I could never do anything right, I was convinced that I was going to burn in hell. So this whole book is basically my spiritual journey of getting past those old beliefs, of being told that I was not good enough, I was not lovable, you're not going to amount to anything. That was the first part. And then the second part was my struggle to release all those old tapes of who I thought God was, of a higher source. Who is a higher source? Do I even believe in a higher source? So it's my whole spiritual struggle to come up with my belief system of what I feel is my spirituality, not what I was told.
When I was little, I had that same little picture in my head about God is sitting on the top and he's like, you're
Yeah.
going to heaven, you're going to hell.
Yes.
Because that is what our parents teach us, If you are naughty and you don't do things the right way, you're going to hell. God
Yeah.
sees everything, and I think that is mostly what little kids think. God is
Well, I
sitting there and
believed
he's
it.
saying, you're going to
Yeah.
heaven, you're going to hell,
And I never thought for a moment that I was good enough to go to heaven.
Oh,
I didn't do
ah,
it right. So yeah, it was terrifying as a child. I
that
had
is so
nightmares.
sad to hear that, that you would think that you were not good enough.
Oh,
There are
totally.
so
Yeah.
many women out there that feels like they are not good enough. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I was one of those because I was always told that I am useless. The word
Yeah.
useless, it is something that you must never tell your wife or
Never,
your
never.
girlfriend or your friend. Don't ever tell people that they are useless.
It's
It
so
is really
untrue.
breaking down that
Mhm.
person's spirit so much, and then
Totally.
we have to pick up the pieces later, and it ruins your life when you're little and you think that you're not good enough.
Uh-huh.
Some people choose to take a better road, and some people choose to don't take a road at all and just go
Well,
and sit in a
we
corner.
all have our own journeys, don't we? We all
Yes,
have our own stories, and we all have our way of doing things, and which just makes it wonderful because everybody's so different, and yet we're all on the same path.
yes.
You know,
Wow,
it comes down to the bottom line. It's we all want the same thing.
wow.
So,
So, how did you overcome all your things that you went through?
oh wow, life. I sought out all different kinds of healing modalities. I've tried everything. Reiki, I've tried body talk, I've done um, workshops, all of that kind of thing. And it was funny because my entire life, almost, I was looking for that higher source, that love, that divine love outside of myself, that it's over here, it's over there. And that's where I have to go to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And I never realized until after to actually writing this book, slightly before, that all of that is right with inside of us. That's who we are. We are the divine. It's not out there or over there or under here. It's here. And it's
Correct.
getting in touch with us, with our soul. That's the divine. And that's what
Yes.
goes on endlessly. And we are, I believe we are here to learn that this is Earth School and we're sent here to learn lessons. And we decide what those lessons are going to be. I don't believe this is our only life. I believe we have had multiple lives, but every life has been a learning experience. So if I point at someone and saying, you're a terrible person because you did this, chances are in a previous life, I've done exactly that.
Mm.
And we're all learning. We're all where we are supposed to be, but we are learning for ourselves and what our next step is going to be in the whole process of developing as a soul.
Yes. So you said earlier that you were cross at God and you were cross at everyone in your life.
Yeah.
How did you find God again?
It wasn't the God that I grew up with. um, for me, it's a higher source. It's the universe. It's that divinity that is all around us in everybody. But it's what I've learned in this course of my life that all of the bad things have made me what I am today. And it
Mm.
has put me on that path of spiritualism, which we all are. Whether we're atheists, we're still on that path. And it took a lifetime of all of those lessons and of finally saying, what I was taught was not the facts.
Mm.
They did the best they could, but it was not what spirituality is all about. And so it was
Mm.
coming to grips with the whole divine and the fact that that is me personally. This physical body is just a body. Who we really are is the spiritual experience. That's who we really are.
That
So
is
it was
so
coming to
correct.
grips with that.
Yes, and also, the way you treat people and the way you live your life, if you just treat people well and you try to live the best that you can,
Yeah.
it all shines through you, I mean, and God sees all of that. So
Mhm.
it's not about you going to heaven, you're going to hell,
No, it's the
it's
fact
about,
that we are all divine beings and we are all loved.
yeah,
And I've read a lot of books about people who have passed and then come back, and they all say the same thing. They cannot believe the love that they were shown and what they felt on the other side, and that is just extraordinary. But that's what. So
yeah,
here we
yeah,
are,
yeah,
learning
here we are.
with our stories.
So do you write every single day? Do you write or
No, I need inspiration of what I'm going to write about. So right now, I don't have any other book on the go. Um, it's when something hits me that I need to say, okay, that hits me. I've got to write. That's when I'll start to write. I'm not into fiction. I'm into real stuff. So
yes,
when
Yes,
that,
me also. I can't just
yeah,
write something if I don't have something to write about. Although
exactly.
I have just launched my first fiction.
Oh,
Um,
did you?
yes, but it is based on a true story. I have about 6 or 7 true stories of my family and what
Yeah,
I've been through in my life, maybe a shooting here or a shooting there or a hijacking here and a hijacking there. Because if you live in South Africa, there's always something
there's
going
always
on.
something.
And I I'm now writing about all my experiences and putting that into fiction. So there's some
Me
truth
too.
to it, and then there's some not truth to it, some
Not so
fiction
much
to
to it.
it. But at least I have the truth that I've got my focus on my story. I don't know how people write all these fantasies and things
I don't know either. I don't know
that
how to come up with the ideas.
it is amazing. I think some people's imagination is so good.
It
Me,
is.
I have to write about a little bit of truth and then I can use my
Yeah,
imagination with that.
exactly. Yeah, good for
Yes.
you. That's awesome.
Wow. So you're not in the police force anymore now?
Nope,
You
we are both
retired?
retired, thankfully.
Nice.
Yes, and we're enjoying life in British Columbia, Canada, and
Wow.
we love it out here. Yeah,
Very
it's
nice.
just
Very nice.
really, really nice.
Well, do you have any kind of um, hope or something to say to our viewers, motivate them a little about becoming an author or changing their life? Do you want to say something to them?
Um, do you mind if I read an excerpt from the end of
Sure,
one of my books?
please do.
Okay, I'll read from Unfinished, from the bottom, from the back of it, my final pages. How's that?
Yes.
Okay. At times, I am still tempted to replay all my past hurts and judge those who wounded me as terrible, insensitive human beings. But it weighs heavy and only feeds my illusion that I am more righteous than they. Every human being, without exception, chooses their own journey of life, holding full responsibility. To keep blaming them only keeps one stuck. Life is a mystery that sometimes doles out unimaginable hardships that seem insurmountable and cruel. In short, life is difficult. As long as I am breathing, I know that the universe will put in my path lessons to inspire and challenge my growth. Nothing ever goes away until it has taught us what we need to learn. I will fall down and maybe even get lost for a while, but eventually I will crawl my way back and keep going. As long as I am alive, I am a work in progress, unfinished.
Wow.
That's
That
from my
is
first book.
beautiful.
Thank
That
you.
is so beautifully said. When you fall down, don't stay there. Get
We
up.
all will. We'll all fall
Get
down. Yeah,
up. We all fall down.
exactly.
And I don't know how much you know about my story. Have you watched some of my previous podcasts or
I
read my
know that you've
stories?
suffered great loss in your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
I lost my entire family that I grew up with. Mom,
Mm-hmm.
dad, 3 sisters, and my brother. And I
Brutal.
was literally down, down, down and out. And it's 5 years now since I've been
Oh,
alone. Um, I have two half brothers that I didn't grow up with, but
yeah.
I know of them. That's still there, but the family that I
Brutal,
grew
eh?
up with
And you
is
wonder
all.
why. How come you're the survivor?
Do you know that we just spoke about that yesterday?
Is that right?
I also go to grief share sometimes, and I'm actually leading the grief share group at our church for this season,
Good for you. Awesome.
13 episodes basically, or
Wow.
videos or sessions. And they asked me if I would like to lead it, but I've never been to a grief share group before.
Well,
And it's unbelievable. Look, I mean, I've watched television and I know that when you go to a grief share, you share your stories and things like
Yes,
that, and because I am a podcast host, I listen to many people's stories, so I thought, well, maybe it's similar to something like this, you have a conversation and you tell your story.
that's right. Yeah.
But oh my word, Carrie, if I can tell you that it is worth
Wow.
finding a grief share group around you and go share your story because the videos that they show you,
Hmm.
oh, I think it was the third session,
Okay.
I was crying throughout it the whole time. And
Wow.
it was about loneliness and sadness
Wow.
and how I was carrying everything behind that mask that I told you
Wow.
earlier.
Yes. Yeah.
And I realized that loneliness was my biggest issue.
Yeah.
Although you have your family that live with you and your children
Yeah.
that loves you, if you don't have your mom and your dad or your siblings to just fight with you or chat to you or go for a coffee or just talk about something that no one else knows, or things
Yeah.
like that, that is what I miss the most.
I bet you do. Yeah.
And I'm still young. I mean, I believe that I will grow old as well,
Hmm.
because maybe God wants to use me this way
Yeah.
to
Yeah. You
help
have a
other
purpose.
people, to show them that doesn't matter if you have lost so many close relatives, that you can still make a difference,
Well, you're alive
Sometimes,
for a reason. That's right.
sometimes with tears in your eyes,
Yeah.
you still can make a difference. And
Totally.
I have like made a 180 turn in the last 3 months approximately with my grief and my
Wow.
heartache and my way of thinking, because we sometimes don't realize that God has given us a good husband
Yeah.
or has given us children that we can love, and many times I would say, no, you know what? You guys go. I'm not feeling so well, Oh, my back is so sore, or I'm so tired because I'm a massage therapist as well. And I'm like always saying, oh, I'm so tired. I just want to rest. But when they leave, I sit and I look at photos, or I just
Oh,
miss
wow.
my family and I'll
Yeah.
cry. And I just realized with this grief share group that you shouldn't do that. You should actually get up, go get showered, get dressed, get out, and then your morbid feeling that you have will start to go away.
You'll dissipate. Yeah.
It will, yes. So, yeah, even if I sometimes do have a question of why am I the last one
Yeah.
standing, um, I feel that this is my reason because there are
Exactly.
many people that's broken out there that also needs to sometimes hear someone's story and maybe they'll get up and they'll go and
People
shower.
need your story. That's right.
Yes,
For their own healing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But you have an amazing story as well. Um, I would really like to read your book because it's always nice to hear how you have been through so much when you were younger,
Yeah.
and you also speak about how someone took advantage of you,
Totally.
and
It's all of those things that happen make us who we are today, as it's made you who you are today. And
yes,
we can either use it for our own growth or we can use it to remain bitter and angry. And
yes,
I was certainly bitter and angry, but it's just not worth holding on to that.
yes.
There's so
Have you
much,
ever forgiven those people to be able to move on?
definitely, definitely. Um,
Yes, I also learned that you
any of
have
them
to
have
forgive the
passed.
people.
That's huge. And it's not forgiving them for their sake.
Yeah,
Um, it's so that we are no longer a prisoner of our belief systems of them, that we
Yes.
can let that go and be free of all that mind mentality.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not for their sake. And to say that what they did was okay, it's never okay. But
Mm-mm.
that's not what forgiveness is. It's
No.
just letting go of the past and making something more
Yes.
effective for us.
Yes, because mostly when you will say to someone, I forgive you for what you
Oh,
have
it can
done
be
to
just
me, then
words.
they'll be like, well, I don't need your forgiveness because I have done nothing wrong.
That's
But by
right.
the end of the day, you said, I forgive you. And you know what? You can turn around and you can start your new life and your new
Yeah,
chapter.
exactly.
Um,
I don't
wow.
need,
It's
yeah.
unbelievable how many people have very similar stories. I think I interviewed almost 5, 6 women
Yeah,
already in my previous podcasts that has been through so much, but they've come out
totally. Eh? And it's
and
funny
became
because
so strong.
when we were at the award gala in July, both my husband and I noticed that there were so many people there with books, and all they can be different genres. But the underlying fact is no different. We've gone through major trauma and childhood crap, and yet we've come out on the other side. And I've said so many times that we're not different. We're so similar in so many ways. And you're just saying it again now with people you've
Yes,
interviewed. We all have gone through similar stuff, and but we've come out of it, and we've realized that there's more, and to let
it
it go.
is. Yes, it's as soon as you change that mindset
Yeah,
and start to believe in yourself. I always
totally.
say, just look in the mirror, get up and say, Good
Yeah,
morning, beautiful, and see how beautiful you are. Because you cannot change the way you look, you cannot
nothing,
change the way
nothing.
you are, but you
Yeah,
can change your mindset. And as soon as your mindset change,
yeah,
you can start to see the beauty of yourself.
totally, totally.
Because no one can love you if you don't love yourself.
That's where it
That was
starts.
also a
Yeah,
subject we spoke about previously in one of my other podcasts.
yeah,
It's all about self-love. We do
it
need
is.
to love ourselves to be able to love others.
To love anyone. That's right. And changing our perspective of things. Um,
Yes,
just to
yes,
sit back and be grateful. My God, we have a lot to be grateful for. Like
we
just look
do.
around us.
Yes,
No,
we
it's
do.
endless. And if we dwell on just negativity and what all the bad stuff that's happened to us, we won't get anywhere. But we got to change that around and see what's out there and thinking, wow, look at that sky or look at that scenery. It's there for us. It's stunning.
It is true that we sometimes need to get out a little bit more and look up, look at
Yeah.
the environment, the sky, and the trees that just always grow
God.
back after
Yes.
winter, and flowers, it just blooms again.
They're miracles. Like look at
It,
the spring. Things coming to life. It's like, wow,
yes, and
look that
having
up.
babies and creating a baby and
Incredible.
how incredible that is. Oh, my word. There are so many miracles around us, and God's hand is always in there somewhere. And
Everywhere. Yeah.
we just need to sometimes stand back and look a little because
Yes.
then we'll see it. And as soon
Yeah.
as you see it, you cannot unsee it.
And you can't see it. You can't stuff it back in the can.
You
No.
cannot unsee it. You have to now just go with the flow and let it grow.
Definitely.
Wow,
Yeah.
this was such a nice
So nice talking to
conversation,
you.
because sometimes all we need is just speak to someone. That's all we need.
Yeah, exactly. And
Wow.
thank you so much for giving people this opportunity. It's priceless.
Well,
You're
I
doing
pray many people see this and listen to the stories that I interview because my word, it has changed my life
yeah.
I think this is my 30th episode today.
Wow.
In 30 episodes, I have changed from someone who was sitting on my couch every single day
Yep.
crying. When
Wow.
my family come home,
Yep.
I will look fine, but I will be like, I don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like cooking. I don't feel like doing anything. I just feel like feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's unbelievable just how much these stories that I am listening to have healed my heart. And if
See,
it
that's
can do that to
fantastic.
me, believe me,
Yeah,
it can do it to you as well.
but that's the whole point, isn't it? We're here
Yes,
for each other.
yes. Well, wow. Well, Carrie, it was amazing to have you with me today. Anything else you would like to share that we didn't think about? Where can they get hold of you?
There's so much I want to talk about. Read my books. It's all in there. I am on Facebook under Carrie Lefave, and my books are on Amazon, but I will send you the short links so that people can get hold of them if they want to, and read my stories, because I'll guarantee you people will relate to exactly what I'm saying, because we're all
Wow.
so similar in what we've gone through.
Well, I will post this on Facebook and then I will tag you, and then people can follow you through there as well. I
Sounds
will also put all your descriptions of your book below the video. And
sounds
if you go into the description below, you will find Carrie's book links right there. Thank you
fantastic.
so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Johanna. So appreciate it. All the best. You're doing great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, another amazing story that we have heard today.
For the 30th time.
For the 30th time, let me include that. And if you have a story to tell, please reach out to me, because every story matters. Don't ever think that you are not good enough. Get up, take a shower, go make yourself look better, dry your hair, and go out and look what God has left for us to enjoy. I will be back next week with another amazing story. Reach out to me if you have a story. I am Johanna Vendel, and this is Give Me Hope with Johanna. Till next time, goodbye.
This has been Give Me Hope with your host, Johanna Vendel. Join Johanna each week and harness the transformative power of storytelling to facilitate healing and growth.